You're watching YCN, your local view. Program airtime is underwritten in part by Bar Harbor Bank and Trust. Looking to purchase your dream home, finance your business, or just find a better checking relationship? Our New Hampshire team is here to help you. We make award-winning banking happen every day. Contact us to see how we can help you. Member FDIC.
Welcome back to Cougar Chronicle. It is April.
Oh my gosh.
And you know what they say, April showers.
Bring May flowers.
You got it.
But you know what May flowers bring?
What?
Pilgrims.
Seriously?
Okay. You got it. It's the old dad joke. I'm an old dad. Gotta make the old dad jokes when we
I
can.
think that's a granddad joke.
It is. Well, you take it for whatever it works, but the poor comedy in my house runs, I'm here all week,
Those poor
try
kids.
the veal.
Those poor kids. Well, it's April.
They're used to it.
They're adorable. So you're a Cougar Chronicle. It is the month of April, and can you believe how quickly this time has passed?
I cannot believe we're here already.
I know.
I
Yes.
vividly remember, one, interviewing for the position
Yes.
in November of 23,
Yes.
getting offered what felt like was going to be an eternity till we got here. And then everything kind of rolled in, and it has been just the most amazing adventure along the way. I mean, with any position and with any change, you're going to have challenges. Every district has its things to overcome. But the opportunity to do this and to really pull back, as we talk about pulling the curtain back,
Yes.
and really showing the heart of the district.
Right.
And it being shown not from my voice, but from the lens of the people that
Absolutely,
do it.
absolutely. And we were talking about, as the show evolves too, right now we have a lot of student audio and student performances and pictures, and we'll just bringing everyone to the mix has been wonderful. Thank you for that.
It's been, and we wanted to expand so much more. I mean, I think a lot of it was really just when the whole genesis started. I mean, we started from a conversation about starting a podcast when we did this interview years, last 20, was it?
Last year.
Fall
yeah,
of
it was fall.
24.
Yeah, you got it.
And so it evolved into where we are today, but there's so much more places that we can go to it about trying to be able to do on-site interviews and getting more kids in and things like that. But I really wanted to make sure that we had a system that was sustainable. That's everything that we do within the district.
Right.
And I feel like we've got that messaging out, and people are engaging into it and are finding value in that. We go to the Dunkin' Donuts here in New London, and there's a young man that works there, and he goes, "Hey, Cougar Chronicle guy," and he pays attention,
that's
and so
wonderful.
they see that.
Yeah,
And not that you want to be. The goal was never about me. It was always has been and always will be about the district.
I know that.
And so, what a great chance to do that. But by the same token, we're getting into springtime, so we're almost the end of the school year. I'll have my first graduation class.
Oh, that's exciting,
high
isn't
school
it?
kids, and we get into these springtime activities. I finally got my bus license finished. So
You
that way
did
I'm on the
not. You
roster.
didn't tell me that.
Well,
That's
I had that
awesome.
with me,
I
but I
know.
finally was able to get the roster done.
Oh,
and so
wow.
we've got all that completed.
That's
And
awesome.
so, as we do these things, I look forward to driving little trips and things of that nature, to be with the kids and be involved. But it's just been such a great learning experience, and I'm just every day still blown away.
And John, I've seen you at the school board meetings with issues that have been challenging, some of the biggest issues that we've faced in the district, and you handle that with the same calmness, the same honesty, and that's really been appreciated, because it's nice to be light and happy and joyous, but to see each other at plays, but when you're dealing with issues that really affect our students and families, thank you.
Well, I appreciate that.
I appreciate it.
I would tell you that I'm like a duck. I may look calm above the water, but I am paddling like all I can be underneath as we go from there. But
that's a good way of putting it. Yeah.
I have a true love for the district. I have a true love for the communities, and we're engaged. We are members of the community with my wife and our grandkids, and we're as invested into it. And it's nice. I love my placement because I get to see things from the superintendent lens, but I also am a parent.
Absolutely.
And so I get to see those things in.
Right.
And I'm a member of the community, so I get to see it as, as a person that invests
is involved.
and engages
You're right.
with that.
Now, I'll tell you, the superintendent puts up with a lot of, in the old days, because I've been around for a while. Speaking of the old days, one of our guests today is Larry Elliott, I see.
Larry Elliott is our Director of Student Services. We're
Yes.
excited to have him come in, talk a little bit about his role,
great job.
the 27 hats that he wears. He's
Yeah,
got
I
more
know.
titles than anybody. If you put everything on his, you'd have a full page of
That's
you
very
know,
true.
it'd be
Glad he's here.
a full page of signature pages on an email. So he's coming in to talk. April Ross, Chef April Ross,
Ooh, I
who
can't
is
wait.
in charge, the instructor at our culinary program at the high school.
Wonderful.
Coming to talk about that, because just to showcase that we are doing some pretty
They
innovative,
do amazing things.
exciting
Yeah.
things. And then, as always, Mr. Bessette will be here. Michael Bessette, our assistant superintendent. We're going to change things up a little bit on this one.
How so?
We're going to talk about the joy of education. With that one.
Okay, I love that.
We get to kind of lean
I
in.
love
You know,
that.
as we get into April, the sun comes out, but
Yes,
I think sometimes,
days are longer.
as we both have been teachers,
Yeah.
it's harder sometimes for the end of the year to maintain that
Right.
excitement. So
Right,
we're gonna
and keep the energy up.
Go a little bit
Oh,
about
that's
memory
great.
lane and get a chance to lean into it. And
Perfect.
then, of course, as always, the questions from the
superintendent.
community. So get a chance to look at that.
And you know, mine was not emailed this time. It was at a fundraiser when I was in Bradford, and someone asked me a question to ask you.
Perfect.
Isn't that
So we'll
great?
have a
So
chance to
thank
do
you for
that.
your involvement. Thank you
Yes.
for staying a part of the show. We're so grateful to have you here. And we'll be back. Well, welcome to Cougar Chronicle. This is our April edition. Can you believe it?
It's springtime is upon us.
I
As we get
know,
going from
I
there, a lot of
know.
great things. This, you know, just always great, so much fun. And I'm excited for our first guest. So
Yes.
this person is a,
My interview.
you can, yeah, you
My
can. I'm going to interview. I'm going to
yeah.
introduce him, but you can do the interview as we go. So we got Mr.
love
Larry
him.
Elliott, who is our student services director. Which great to have you here. Thank you so much for being
Thank you
here.
for inviting me.
joining
Yeah,
us.
which
Oh.
he's here under duress.
yeah,
as you
he
can
is.
tell.
I know. He's so excited to be here.
So, when we talk student services director, it's a fancy title for Larry gets all the jobs that we
Right.
can't always find somebody to do.
Everything under the sun
Exactly.
is how I
Yes,
explain
yes,
it to
comes-
people.
Right. It all gets collected
we-
and put on his
You
desk.
know, you've heard Swiss Army knife before, but Larry truly
Yeah, oh,
is the Swiss
yes,
Army knife of the district.
absolutely.
Because we're talking special ed, counseling, nurses,
Yes. Yes.
outside service providers. The fun one that he said, no matter what happens, you could never take away from me, transportation, right?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
You could have it when you
Yes,
pry
yes,
out of my
that's
cold
right,
dead
right,
fingers. I think you'd get rid of that one first if we could
Well,
do that.
I think we need some perspective. So, Larry, you are one of the longest standing members of the district. Tell us your background, how long you've been here for.
I arrived in 1998 as a special education teacher, so I'm in my 27th year here in the district.
It's a long time.
Yes.
And then the 16th year as the Director of Student Support Services.
Well, you know, Larry's always was that go-to guy.
Yes.
So when we heard he was applying for student services, everyone went like this,
Mm-hmm.
you know, to head that up. So you've done, boy, and it's been an evolving job over those
Absolutely.
years.
It has changed.
It
yeah.
really has. What do you think are some of your biggest challenges that you've faced?
Well, I think the students, not necessarily the number of students, but the needs of the students, the
Right.
social emotional, the behaviors have definitely increased since when I have started.
Right. That's a big change.
Well, and I think his team has gotten probably a lot bigger. When you talk about you were the director of student services, but underneath you, what is that chain of
Well,
command look like?
when I started, it was just me.
Yeah. Okay.
And then I had a couple of teachers that kind of oversaw special education in the buildings.
All right.
And they were under teacher contract. But I worked for many, many years to try to get some more support. So we removed those teachers and added administrators. So now I have 4 other special education administrators throughout the district in the buildings that are my eyes and my ears to help me with my job.
Gotcha. So it went from really a one-man show,
Correct.
which is what it was, to now having administrators in every single building.
Well, 4 administrators in the buildings.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. So there's 4 associate directors that work under. So.
Oh, there was. Wow.
And then
okay.
so there are, if I'm correct me if I'm wrong here. So there are spread out amongst the 6 buildings.
Yes.
Each one has
yes.
2 buildings roughly.
Gotcha. Okay,
Yeah.
that makes sense.
And so they
okay.
kind of work from there. They're the on-site special ed
Boots on the ground.
administrators
Right.
that work with that. So they attend, most of the IEP meetings, or if there's 504 stuff or programming, things like that. They're responsible for the programming pieces within those buildings.
Okay, so just to back it up a little bit, so define student services for those of us who are, wondering what exactly are you doing as the student services director?
Well, and as Mr. Fortney had said earlier, student services is anything about the students.
Right.
So we're talking about special education,
Right.
school counseling,
Gotcha.
nursing services, tutoring,
Gotcha.
English as a second language, and busing.
Gotcha. So we did touch on it. I just want to
little bit of
reinforce it because it's everything that involves
Anything
a
homeless
student.
students falls into that category.
Yep.
Yes.
I mean, it literally is the buffet of if it involves touches a kid.
Right.
Now, as far as those kind of would say Maslow needs, but the idea, and then supported with that then becomes our principals and our assistant principals that work in conjunction with Larry and his team to really to get the whole kid.
Gotcha.
And go from there. So they're supporting the academic pieces. How do we get a kid to and from school? If a kid has, if a kid gets hurt, what happens there? If a kid needs leveling for educational outcomes, so then student services, special ed,
Accommodations, modifications.
all that stuff
Right,
comes in.
right.
So you have all these things that it's this great big juggernaut of a machine that is built around making
Right.
kids successful.
Right.
And there's so many moving parts that come with it. And so obviously when you have all those titles, he can't do all of that by himself because he's doing all the programming and the financing. If we have kids that get outside placed, then he's working with those agencies.
Absolutely.
The legality of certain things, because obviously when we talk specifically special ed law, and I know this from my wife, who's a retired special administrator,
Right.
and then just my own experience, the two things that get you sued the fastest are sports and SPED.
Interesting.
If you look at that,
Okay.
because of participation and due process and what rights and things like that. So we have a lot of that.
Part of
going
my
on.
job involves going into some of the court hearings in representing the school district.
Yes.
That's
So
a
you involved
huge
with that.
responsibility. I mean,
Absolutely.
that's almost law degree time, isn't it? I mean, I know we have attorneys that work with the district,
Absolutely,
but
yeah.
that's a really big
We
responsibility.
just know who to call. That's the biggest
Right,
thing. And they
right.
tell us what to say, and we ask questions, and then we
Right,
move forward from
right,
there.
right,
But
exactly.
it really is an all-encompassing job. And just a great example, and we can highlight this a little bit. I mean, there was a huge move, as you remember, where we went to 2 bus routes.
Right,
Two
yes.
routes.
Correct.
Just this school year.
Yep.
And needless to say, there were some obstacles. There were some communication things on the front end last
Sure.
spring, and we battled some stuff as we tried to get drivers in. But all of that stuff fell on Larry. Larry is the direct liaison with STA, Student Transportation of America.
Oh, you
so
are?
they work
Okay,
directly
yeah.
with there. And because I work directly with STA for snow day calls.
Gotcha.
But for getting kids to and from, specialized and things like that, the highlight, we had one thing, it was like, why can't we just take a bus up everywhere we go? But there was one student, was it in Wilmette, that we had to go leave the district to come pick a kid up.
You have to go through other towns. Absolutely.
Oh, I don't even think of that, but of course you do. Our
Because when
geographic
family move in,
footprint is
they're
huge.
on the backside of the district.
Gotcha.
And putting a 70-passenger bus that long, so he's the one that helps decide, do we need a van, do we need a car?
Right.
Can we run in a full bus, and works in conjunction of that. And that's just a small
That's
fragment
that
of
much of
his
your job. Right,
Yeah,
right,
absolutely.
right. Teeny
Just a
wee.
piece.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
If
Okay.
buses aren't running right, if things are late. I mean, transportation itself is such a huge juggernaut thing, and Larry's
Right.
been doing it so long, and it's hard.
Tell us about the profile of the students who you are responsible to educate in our district. You always think of the traditional, K-12, but that also extends past 12th grade, doesn't it, as well?
Oh, absolutely. The federal law changed not too long ago that it's through the 21st birthday up to age 22.
Okay.
So we have some students here up until their 22nd birthday.
And so,
And beginning at when they turn 3.
wow. Right, so it's pre and post.
And post. So,
Yes,
yeah.
and post.
So the pre-K program,
Okay.
our early childhood special ed programs, all that falls under, because remember, we have one pre-K program in 2 sites, at Bradford and then here at New
Yeah,
London.
yeah. That's a very long time, isn't it? Yeah, and then you have to identify the needs of the students you're working with and assess them.
And it's all students.
Yes, all students. Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
I mean, the difference between public ed versus some of the other entities, not to, everybody has their need.
No, right.
But if you live within the confines of our district, if you are within the district boundaries, we are obligated by law to provide those educational services. And the number of the rights and the important things to get kids leveled sometimes requires them to be placed either with additional services during the school day or out of district placement. And I don't know if we can do an out of district placement for less than a 6-figure.
Right.
Look at
And
that.
making those determinations, that must be challenging.
Yes.
Well, that's why we have IEP teams to do that, who know the
Right,
students.
right.
Yeah.
The
Tell
other
us-
thing is that we have some parents choose to send their students to a charter school or a private school. And the districts are still involved in that situation as well.
Homeschooling, if a child is
Gotcha.
homeschooled,
Yep.
Homeschooling.
we're still, if they have special services needs, we are obligated, as we should be, because those kids
Absolutely.
deserve it.
Right,
you
and
know,
people pay taxes to
do
have
those
that,
things.
right.
Exactly.
Tell everyone what an IEP is. What does that stand for?
Individual Education Plan.
Okay, and that's modified for each individual student.
Students.
One plan,
Who's
one student.
identified for special education.
Gotcha, okay. And so that's where that really comes into place to help you understand, are they meeting those goals? Are they, achieving that skill
For that particular student,
for
they're all
that
individualized.
one student?
And one student may have very small needs where they
Right.
they don't need to be in any specialized classrooming. They just need some modifications that that we can make those adjustments and go through. But then we have students that require alternative placement, so they may be in a
Right.
self-contained classroom. But the biggest piece you hear is this the acronym, because we always have to throw it out.
Lots
so
of acronyms.
LRE, least restrictive environment.
Gotcha.
Do me a
Okay.
favor, because I hear that a lot.
Yep.
And you hear that even from people that are non-educators. What is least restrictive environment? Why is it important? And how do we make some of those determinations?
So least restricted environment is where can the child get a free, appropriate public education.
Okay, free, appropriate public education.
So like people say FAPE when you think of that.
Okay,
So when you think of that, regular education, which is the regular mainstream classroom, is the first spot where you want students to get their education.
right, okay,
So majority of students get that.
Okay.
And then there's the special education in that regular classroom or pull-out services.
okay,
And then we have programs in our buildings. We have a behavior program and our life skills program. So it's a self-contained program in our schools.
okay,
And then beyond that, we talk about students going out of district to different schools or even hospital settings.
gotcha.
you
And
talk
that's
about
the range
that
of
continuum of
We're
care.
talking medical, we're talking educational, of course, legal.
Absolutely.
This is Larry, do you go home at night? This
On
is
occasion.
a big, this is
He
a
doesn't
big,
sleep.
this is
He
a big,
he plugs in and recharges
Well,
is what we do.
I mean, we have how many students in our district? Many, right?
Almost, the last count we were just about 1,700 kids.
So that's a big responsibility. We think of our own children, our grandchildren, how worried we are. 1,700
Yeah.
Well,
students.
and I understand too that transporting those kids, not all 1,700 of those kids have these needs, but we range within there. Even if you figure, say you had 10% of your population that had
Right.
those IEPs, so you're talking 170 students,
Right.
and they range from not a lot to heavily involved to out of district placement. And when you're coordinating all that stuff, it's not. I mean, let's just call it what it is. It's not cheap to take care of some of these. I mean,
Right.
look at your medical bill and what your doctor
Right.
bills the insurance company. We're providing occupational therapy, speech therapy, and sometimes cognitive and behavioral type of supports, BCBA things. All of those things add up. So when we talk about what it costs to educate our kid all in, that's why those costs go up, because we're seeing a rise in the needs of those kids.
Larry Elliott, this is a big, thank you, because this is, our children are everything to us. So when the district gets involved, we need for you to be focused, and you are. From 3 years old.
Yeah.
So if I have a little one who's not speaking up to what I think they should be, or has an impediment or something, I can call the district and say, help.
Yeah, and we get referrals when a student turns 2.5.
Wow.
And that's when we have to have an IEP in place for that child on their 3rd birthday, so they get services on their 3rd birthday.
Yeah. And I understand too
That's a lot.
that we also run concurrent programming within our pre-K for students that aren't identified, so just kids that want to be
Right.
in pre-K.
Yes.
And we've got a waiting list of that, because one of the biggest, when we talk about least restrictive environment, all the research, we constantly come back to the research, says that students learn best when they're with their peers. And so disabled peers work best when they're non-disabled peers, that
Right.
mainstreaming piece. So we want to maintain, we maintain that ratio. So it's not just limited, so Larry's world is not just limited to students that have needs, but also just that have, they need to be developed.
That's
so
right.
we look at our pre-K program as well. So we have that mix, and that's all under his umbrella and his roof.
We, we're getting the signal to wrap it up, and I feel like you just sat down.
That's what it feels like.
There's so much, we hope you'll come back.
Absolutely.
Because, this is a vital service.
And it makes
that
up a
is
huge chunk
provided.
of what we do within the district as we go from there. But again, it's the biggest thing coming back to is these services are the right things to do if they weren't legally mandated, which they are.
It's the right
but
thing to
it's
do.
the right thing to do for kids because every kid
They
deserves the
deserve it.
opportunity to be the best they can, and Larry
Absolutely.
takes the spirit
Well,
of that and appreciate that.
What I know, Larry, you've been doing it for years, and thank you for all you do. I was always grateful to know you were at our side.
I appreciate that.
Yeah,
thank you
so-
very much.
so
And
thank
thank you
you.
for letting me come today.
Yeah, and you're coming back.
I'll come
Because
back.
if he tells you have to
That's
come
fine.
back.
I can run
right?
that. I can
There
play
we
the
go.
title. I don't do it often. We'll go from there. But we'll have him back for
Yeah,
sure.
Larry Elliott, thank you so much for
right.
joining us.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Now, coming up next, we have a segment that I'm going to have to hold your hands during.
There has been a lot of segments that I've been excited about, but this one
Culinary
by
Arts
far.
program.
Oh, yeah.
And we
Oh,
have
yeah.
props, which means food.
excited.
So stay with us. We'll be back on.
The Cougar Chronicle.
Welcome back to Cougar Chronicle. Boy, was it good to talk to and speak with Larry.
Oh, what a great
He
conversation.
does such a good job.
He
does a
you know,
very
okay.
good job.
Keep me
So
focused.
we
Keep me
don't
focused.
typically hold hands, but we have a guest who's brought in
It's hard. So
delightful culinary treats.
We've talked about a lot about our CT, our Career Technical
Yes.
Educational Programs. And again, we have programs. A lot of times, kids will go to Concord to the,
Oh, yeah,
the CRTC
vocational,
out there.
yes.
But we have, like Jesse Finn last month. We've got another example of great opportunities and just a phenomenal thing going on. And it's so hard to stay focused because I am
He is
so
really
hungry
struggling.
right now.
Okay,
So we
let's
have-
do our introductions,
I'm
and
gonna
then
get
I
there.
will
So
take your
We've got
hands.
Chef April Ross, who works at our Kearsarge Regional
April,
High School.
welcome. We're
Thank you
so
so much
glad
for
you're
being
here.
here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
As you could tell, has brought distractors
Yes.
to me to keep me focused more on
I
the
know.
food and less on the interview. But April does a phenomenal job with our students and just the amazing things that are happening. And it's so
Absolutely.
awesome to be a guy coming in to go,
Right.
man, I wish our kids could do X, and they go, yeah, that happens.
That's what we do here,
But,
right?
but when you think about Jesse and with the technical educational program that he does with the buildings of stuff.
Right.
But we have a
Full
professional
industrial kitchen, yeah.
Isn't
in our
it-
program,
So
in our high school.
you've been here for 8 years, is that
8
correct?
years,
Yes. Okay. And so always in this area,
Yes.
in culinary?
Yes.
Okay.
My whole life in the culinary industry. Yes.
Oh, that's wonderful. Was it your first endeavor into teaching, or had you taught?
So I taught at Lakes Region Community College. I wrote
Oh,
their
wow.
baking and pastry program and taught there. And then before I came here, I was kind of doing double duty. I was working there part-time and at Concord at their CRTC in the Culinary
Oh,
Arts
how
Department there
wonderful.
as well. So,
Boy, we're lucky to have you.
well, thank you. I'm lucky to come
Absolutely
and
amazing.
and have my own kitchen and my own classroom and be full. It was great. So.
You do so many collaborative projects with other departments and other areas of the school. It's wonderful.
Yeah, it's really nice. We do a lot of cross curriculum, and you're speaking of Jesse. He's made charcuterie boards for my students, and then
Oh.
they
Yes.
do those up. Sean Anderson and the band. We're doing the KC Club, so that's like a nightclub, and that's really real world experience.
That
And
is,
so
yes.
yeah, lots of stuff we do.
They're taking orders. I'm on the high school email chain, so I get access
Right.
to all that. So, I mean, every day there's, hey, we're making this. Do you want to order something? Or we've got
Right.
the lunches and the themes that come with different things. At the SAU, I know we've had a couple of meetings where we've contracted through the classes to have
wonderful.
charcuterie boards
Yeah.
and
Yes.
hors d'oeuvres and things
Oh,
made
see,
up.
that's
and
the way to go.
Phenomenal. Because what a great thing when people go, you like that? Yeah?
Guess
that
where
was
it came
made by
from.
a student.
Right,
Yeah.
right,
And
right.
people go,
Exactly.
really?
Isn't that amazing?
And,
yeah.
and just that, and just the constant. I mean, there's so many cool things coming out of your kitchen all the time. It's
Well,
so
thank
fun.
you, thank
Okay,
you.
so, but let's just get it out of the way. Speaking
Okay,
of
we
cool
gotta talk
things,
about what do we
tell us
have
what
here?
did you bring? It looks
So this is what I did today
Perfect
with
for
the
spring.
students. So in my culinary arts classes, we're doing American regional cuisine and worldwide
Okay.
cuisine this semester. And this is Floridian cuisine that we did today. So I brought you some samplings of what they made. They made a key lime parfait and some mango salsa. So I figured, well, I might as well bring it and
Oh,
showcase what the students were
absolutely.
doing today.
And you know what they can't, the scent
I can't
is
smell it. I really want to
amazing.
cancel the segment and
Yeah,
just walk
I know.
out. Is
It
what I
really
want
is.
to do.
It's just, it's
It looks so good.
understandable. And this is all student driven.
Yes, and actually they got to pick what regions that they wanted to explore. So we'll touch on all of them, but the 5 that they really wanted to concentrate on, they're really learning the history and the cooking customs
wonderful.
and all the ingredients, and so
Okay,
yeah.
my key lime pies are the worst. Tell us about your key lime dessert.
So this is a key lime mousse because I know they wouldn't wait for a key lime pie to set up in the
Right,
small
yeah,
amount
yeah,
that we
me
had,
too.
and I knew they'd want to sample it. So pretty much all the same components. You know, it has whipped heavy cream and key lime juice, and so layered with some graham crackers and some sweetened condensed milk, and so
Right.
they made a little mousse out of that, and layered that on up, and then let that sit for a little while they made their salsa, and then so they could enjoy it at the end.
Oh, that's great. I think that'll be the next offering at my house because my pies are terrible.
Well, it's so much fun.
They're
As you
beautiful.
look at this, what are some of the highlights of doing this course at the high school?
For me, I love the students. I teach the baking courses and the culinary courses and a hot and cold plated dessert. So there's a lot of variety, and I learn just as much from the students as they're learning from me. So it's great to see them, especially in hot and cold plated desserts and in culinary when we get to plating. Like, I'm like, oh, I didn't even think of doing it like that, right? They're so creative, and to see their take on things. Not all of my students are going into the industry to do this, but many of them work in the industry, and they're like, oh, hey, now I understand why I have to do that for sanitation at work. That totally makes sense now. And they're gaining some skills, and they might have started out as a dishwasher, but then they slowly make their way to prep cook and line cook. I have a few students who have moved up doing that. So it's great to see the advancement in that, and it's just really fun to see them get excited, and it's a life skill. So, a great life skill. And
Wonderful
It
life
is.
skill.
Surprisingly, I joke that this is man-made, my world, and love cooking and things like that. So I love the affinity. You look back in the high school, what we called home ec kind of thing. I remember back in the 80s taking home ec classes when I was a football player, because on Fridays I got to make my own menu. So I got to cook my pregame meal on Friday.
I
so I
love
got to
that.
cook whatever I want, which was a blast. But we have so much fun with that. And then you watch the kids and the excitement and when they come out of those stuff. And I think one of the things too is, and I'm going to say it to you because I've used you before as an example. We have this focus on competency-based education, K-12, and we get things going, and people try to talk about what competency is. And when we talked about standards is almost measured that one time.
Okay.
And the idea of what is a 4 for competency, and my example was this, is that I would say that chef is fully competent, expert level with using a knife, but it doesn't mean that she doesn't cut her hands every once in a while. So does that mean that she's not competent with that?
Right.
No. It just means that sometimes those things happen.
And
So
that's
we
how we
take
learn.
those things in. So if you haven't cut yourself, I hope I haven't jinxed you into
no,
doing
I have
that.
cut myself plenty.
Okay, so we're good. I don't
I'm
fear that.
human.
But as we look at that, what are the greatest example of those learning targets and then putting it in practice that we get to see every day? And again, I think the highlight of it being a life skill is the best piece, is that learning how to use those culinary skills, even if it's only for cooking for yourself.
Right.
Or eventually if you have another person, you're trying to impress anybody or whatever the case is.
Right.
Again, it's that menu planning, that ingredients, the step-by-step,
And
the problem
plating
solving,
and
plating piece of what looks appetizing and all that.
one of our big things is chopped competitions, like the show, and they love doing that. And so I'm like, the only way to practice is to go home and look in your refrigerator and decide what you're going to make from dinner with what you have.
Oh,
so,
I love it.
just really
Awesome.
problem solving.
So, April, do you find that you have students that come into the program just to find out more and then develop a real interest in culinary arts?
Yeah, it's kind of all over the map. I have some students who know they want to do this, so they come in and take every single one of my classes and then go off to culinary school. I have students who are like, I don't know, I'll just try it. It seems fun and I want to eat. And then they come in and love it and then take more classes. And sometimes they're on the fence and decide to go there. And a lot of times it's just an elective and it's a fun class. They do get a math credit for it in their senior year.
Oh, okay.
So, because there's food costing and everything,
Yes,
with it. But, life skill, I'm big on soft skills too, like being professional. They get graded on being professional. And I'm like, any job you have to, be professional and follow the rules and be on time. And it's school, but it's also kind of like a job. And when we do outside functions, right, it's just like going to work. And if someone doesn't show up, then we have to carry the load of the people who don't show up. So there's a lot of those life lessons in my classes.
Tell us, I'm sorry.
No, you go ahead.
Tell us about the outside functions.
That's what I was
going
to talk about.
So we do a lot of outside functions. happens. So we pair with dinner. We're doing dinner theater this year with Sandy Nelson,
wonderful
so
to be
that'll be
heard.
fun. We have done some stuff in the community before and doing some catering. The Casey Club will be an outside function as well, where they'll come in and it's a la carte. So they'll sit down, and we even put the music students. They become waiters and waitresses, and they go out and they come in, and the orders come in one by one, course by course, and it's really real world. And they have to, deal with money and giving back change and all of that.
Sure.
So
If I'm a business owner, could I hire your classes to do some catering if I was an outside world? I know we have some outside partnerships, but do you take some of those things on too?
We do. It kind of depends on how big it is and when it is and how, I try to fit it. So I try to strike a good balance between doing those real world events and giving them real life experiences, but balancing that with we need some lab time so they actually can learn some of these skills. But we definitely take stuff on here and there.
So if I have an interest, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
So they can email me at the school or call the school, and they can put them in contact with me. We have a whole catering menu that we can send out to them, and then we can have a discussion.
That's wonderful.
I love using these culinary classes
why wouldn't you?
Just our own meetings has been a
That's
blast. I think we've
wonderful.
done it a couple of times, and it's been really
And you've been here a short time.
well
That's
received.
wonderful.
And because, not to say that there are not great opportunities outside, but again, if we're going to bring people under our roof to highlight those things, then let's take advantage of what we have and showcase what we have here.
Yeah,
in
that's
place.
perfect.
And it's been great. And,
Sandy Nelson was so excited to tell us about the dinner theater.
Yeah, it's so fun. We did one a couple years ago, and that was like a barbecue theme. And then this one, I think it's going to be like a pizza theme. I don't know if I'm letting the cat out of the bag on that, but
That's okay. That's okay.
we got time. We could, we'll find out, and if we need to edit that part out, we can put a
We'll make it go away. It's true.
We can. The magic of modern technology.
It's very true.
We got to be cautious though, and let people know that if we do edit it out, it's not a curse word. It was just a.
Right.
It was an ingredient.
Right. It was just a secret, a super secret we let go. So tell us about your curriculum. Now you said you have the Floridian, based menu coming in today.
Yep. So this is culinary. We're in our second. So first semester was intro to culinary arts. They learned all their basics: safety and sanitation, knife skills, soups and sauces, and then all their cooking methods. And then so if they continue on, I have all semester classes now. To Culinary 1, they'll explore American regional cuisine and worldwide cuisine, more menu planning, more plating, talking more about pairing flavors, things like that, and a few more functions. For baking and pastry, the baking bites, again, was the intro, learning all your ingredient functions and your mixing methods and all the basics. And then the second one, baking and pastry arts, is more, finer stuff. We're doing like bagels and English muffins, croissants, laminated doughs, that kind of stuff.
Do you tie in with the nutritional piece with different types of?
A little bit. Nutrition is not on my forefront. So yeah,
so it's not as
because
it's health.
It's not food service.
Right. Exactly.
We're not providing food service to our students, so
It's
we
culinary
get a lot of leeway, as we should.
Right.
But as we look at certain things, I mean, obviously, if it was elementary school or things like that, we would have to spend more time with it. But because we're talking about adult or older kid activities.
And they do get that in health class. So
Exactly. Okay, we have 2 minutes left, so pass this down. Just pass it down. We have to try this. Bit chips.
Good.
Pass it right here.
All right.
Okay, ready? We're going to try this together.
Okay.
So do you mind if we give it a try?
please do.
Are you going to have
Thank
some?
you,
Were you
Tarsha.
ready or not?
I'm salsa'd
You're
out.
salsa'd out? Okay, so this is a mango salsa.
Mango salsa.
It looks
a little spicy.
delicious. Is
It's
it?
spicy.
Okay, ready?
Hang on,
Same
I got to
time.
get some on here. Ready? All right, here we go.
1, 2, 3. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, so good.
It
Delicious.
tastes better than it smelled. I didn't think that was
Oh my
possible.
gosh, so good. So that's really, really good. No.
I'll just take the parfait.
April, thank you. This has been a delight. And again, if people want to get a hold of you, kearsarge.org, right?
Just right through the website.
Yes.
Look for the school.
Yep.
Or if not, call the high
They
school.
can call the high school. They can connect me right to my room.
So much
Perfect.
fun.
And
Thank you so much.
you for
Thanks for
bringing the
having
wonderful
me.
props, edible props.
Yes.
Best thing ever.
We'll have you back. Come back when you can bring more food.
I will.
Thank you so
April,
much.
thank you for being here. Well, this is Cougar Chronicle night. I just don't even know what we're doing because I'm so excited by the food now.
Well, we're coming into our next section with one of our favorite people.
Oh, Michael Bessette.
But we
he's
gotta
gonna
make
eat
sure this is
though.
gone before he
Yeah,
gets
so
here.
Michael will be a few minutes,
We're-
and we're going to have our lunch, and then we'll go from there.
And from there, we'll have our conversation.
You got-
Thanks so much.
This is Cougar Chronicle. Thanks for joining us, and we'll be back in a bit, right?
Yep, absolutely.
Okay. Welcome back to Cougar Chronicle, and we're so glad you're here with us. We are joined once again by
Michael Bessette, our assistant superintendent. So glad to have him here.
Thank you.
Remember last month we changed some things up. We talked
Yes.
kind of old school, new school
Right,
type of pieces.
which was great.
We're going to continue a little bit of a journey. You know, here's the thing: is you get through March, and we
Yep.
talk about, we jokingly as teachers, I always called it the doldrums or the Ides. You get the Ides of March, and it's that tough period of, you know, teachers are kind of at their wits' end, parents are
Right,
at their wits' end,
right.
students are at their wits' ends, and it's sometimes I think it's easy to forget the joy or the why.
That's a good
So
point. Yes.
Michael and I had always talk about the, you know, for me, it's I have a get to life. We talked about that back when I
Right.
first interviewed, and I get to do these things, and sometimes I think we have to be reminded. So I thought we had joked about talking about kind of the joy of education.
And you know
kind
what?
of
I need
why.
it because mud season's really hard for me. My
What is mud
alignment goes
season?
out.
Keep talking about mud season. I haven't
Welcome
experienced
to New
mud season.
Hampshire.
Okay,
Lots of like
I'm
big,
sure it's self-explanatory.
wicked big divots, and
Yeah.
your
Okay.
alignment goes out, your tires get blown, depending on where you drive. So I need a little joy,
Thank you
Michael.
for warning me about
Well,
that.
I'm hoping I can bring you a little
Yeah,
joy.
right.
Talking about some things in
Thanks.
education. so-
We're turning that
There
around.
it is.
so.
Well, you know, talking about spring and revitalizing yourself, and
Yes.
you know, education's a hard profession, right? You know, you work really hard to try to bring out the best in kids, to work with people, you know, to try to do that collaboratively, and it takes a lot of energy. And so, as John and I were kind of talking about what might be a nice kind of a spring forward mentality, you know, how to revitalize yourself, reflecting sometimes is a good way to do that, right? And I was thinking a little bit about some of those joyful moments I had, and some of the questions people have asked me over the 30-year plus career I've had in education now, about what brings out the joy. And for me, one of the most poignant questions people like to ask is, what joy do you find being an administrator? Because, you know, people see the problems. They see the things that we engage, putting out fires, whatever it happens to be, but they very rarely sometimes see us enjoying some of the things that other educators get to enjoy. And teaching for me, I wanted to be a teacher by accident. You know, I fell into teaching. I originally was going to be a marine biologist and then a fighter pilot and something else.
Right.
You know, so I was all over the map and it turns out that I loved teaching, but I loved the toys and the science and the kids in middle school. But I had so much fun with the labs that I would produce, and I was a natural person to want to do problem solving with kids. We would set up opportunities to, you know, to explore the school for a virus, and we would let the kids do these activities. I would let the kids do these activities where they would just get their hands dirty, and we would learn how to identify bacteria and virus. Those were all wonderful moments. But as an administrator,
Right.
you know, you think back and you say, well, where does that happen? Well, it happens for me as an administrator. I still work with kids. Every single year since I've gotten here, and you saw it this year for the first time.
Yeah.
I've been asked by Beth Perkins and the fifth grade crew over at New London to come over and to provide a lesson on Halloween about teaching about the zombie fungus, cordyceps fungus, right? And a lot of people know that my father's a pretty reputable mycologist, written, I think, 40 books at this point.
No
right?
way.
Oh yeah. So
Okay, got it.
and so, you know, I was able and have been able to teach that very exciting class for me, and hopefully make it exciting for the kids around cordyceps fungi. And I can tell when I get them, and I hook them, and I can see that look in their eye, you know, where they kind of get it. That to me is pure joy. And so I've kept on doing that every year, and I'll hopefully keep on doing that every year to keep on, you know, bringing that joy that I love in teaching to the kids. But as an administrator, I also teach adults all the time. And that's one of the things I think that I've been able to kind of share the joy with other people when they say, as an administrator, where do you find joy in that work? I'm still teaching. I just teach principals, or I teach assistant principals, or I teach whatever the audience is, teachers on occasion, right? So I have to find the joy in teaching no matter where the teaching goes. You know,
That
is
makes
it working
sense.
with an individual child, a teacher, you know, a principal? And so joy for me is the act of teaching.
And I will tell you,
engaging
it
in
is.
I love that. Thank you.
First of all, I'm going to embarrass him because hopefully up on my shoulder, Greg's throwing up a picture of that I have of Michael teaching the zombie fungus. We'll show that out to him. But it is amazing to watch.
Is it
Now,
really?
One, he's
I
a
haven't
great
seen
teacher. There are things about Mr. Bessette, that not everybody knows, but at one point was a teacher of the year as a science teacher growing up. And so I totally see why, and I don't want to embarrass him or anything, but you see the value of that stuff. And when you go, why do people win awards, or why are people why are they thought of as that kind of educator? That zombie fungus lesson was so fun. And it's one of those things I think you could have spent hours going through the whole thing. And the kids, you know, the questions, and he'll put the picture up and you're, ooh, that's gross. Or, what are that? But it's just an absolute blast. And this year, as you could tell from the photo, we actually dressed up as an SAU. So he's actually in his Mr. Spock science science officer, first officer thing. And so it's fitting for the whole thing.
No ears, though.
No ears. No pointy ears.
No, but it was just, but those are the kind of pieces they go through. For me, it's that, if you remember last month, we had Jennifer Collins-Duda, who was with the Peak and the paraeducator, talked about the light bulb moment. For me, it's very much that coaching. Loved being engaged and involved with athletes and seeing them develop. Capacity building is my passion. I want to see, I want to get people to take the training wheels off and ride the bicycle themselves. That's my moment. And so as we develop that capacity and those abilities, when you see somebody taking a skill that you 2 months ago were battling with them and applying it, and then the light bulb goes off in that administrator or that teacher, that piece, and then you see how that has that impact. That's the part that's amazing, because I jokingly say my goal is to work myself out of a job. I want to have a series of people that can do things. When I was in Missouri, we used the joke of a week, is that I wanted to be missing for a week before anybody realized that I was gone. Like, if you could do that, then knew that you had built that capacity within. Of course, being 6'3", 320 pounds and being able to be seen from space, it's a little hard to disappear.
I want to ask this question, though. I want to flip the table for a second. Do you have the box or the folder from your teaching days? Do you still have it?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I still have the box.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Mine's a shelf, right? It's just a shelf. And all of the
letters, notes, cards, the things in it.
Without a doubt.
So, you know, I think about the joy of teaching all the time, and in that award that I got this little crystal thing, and it says it's a quote from Einstein about you know, the real role of a teacher is not to basically fill a bucket; it's to ignite a fire in learning, right?
I love that.
And so when you start thinking about that message, in my box, I have this really amazing letter. It's the one that's right on the bottom.
Tell me.
It was from my first teaching year, and every educator needs to think about, if they don't have a box, keep the box, right? And I talk about it in the mentoring.
Yeah.
I do the mentoring program at the beginning of the year with all of our new staff, and I talk about this. This letter came from a 7th grade student, right? And we had finished up the unit that I was just talking about with these kids in rural New York, and I had this opportunity to kind of show them what real life biology and medicine really looks like. We set up a theme. People were going to die, you know, they were going to catch this, and we had to wipe out this bacteria. And we isolated cultures, and, you know, they told me what they wanted to learn in order to get to their task at the end of it, right? So at the end of the game, if you will, after a period of about 3 weeks, the English teacher next to me came over and said, "Michael, these kids are on task. This is amazing. You know, can I join in?" I said, "Sure. What do you want to offer?" And she wanted to help letter writing. And so what they did is they got fired up over the results. We did zone of inhibition studies. They found their own independent chemicals in their homes, and we used little paper punch outs, which are reminiscent of what they use in a hospital. And you put an antibiotic on it. And you would measure the amount of bacterial growth around those zones of inhibition, right? And so this one little girl, I won't mention her name, got so fired up because the product on its label said, right on it, kills 99% of the bacteria. Right? She got so fired up that she wrote this really long letter with all this data that she had collected, shot it off, right, as part of this lesson, and mailed it to them. And, you know, about, I would say 15 years later, I got a letter from this person. And she had graduated from Yale School of Medicine.
Oh, goodness.
And she had said that class was her inspiration to go to medical school.
Oh, see, and
those are your letters.
That's your letter. That's what you keep. That's what you keep in the box.
Yeah.
Well, boys, it is April. So every April Fool's Day, just to let you know, when I was teaching kindergarten, I would switch the roles and have the students teach me. So at the time, Dr. Johnson was the principal, and he would walk into my classroom and go, "What are you doing?" I'd have my hair in curlers, right? And they'd do my nails at snack time and call me Little Laura. because they were, that's what I wanted to do with my snack. And then they would teach me how to do letters and sounds and identify numbers and do groupings with counters. And it really, it was the day I cried every year.
Now this is kindergarten, first grade?
Kindergarten.
Kindergarten.
Yeah,
That's
so
awesome.
you'd sit on Friendship Landing, our little rug, and they would teach me. And it was just joyous. And so that's where I found the joy, to
those
see,
moments.
identify what do they know.
From administrator to a classroom, I was an alternative school teacher for a number of years, always secondary. So I was trying to overcome the spark that may have been removed from our students growing up, but getting those letters from students that are, past, this is my family, this is my life. Thank you for believing in me. Thank you for having those moments.
That's it.
Missouri, we call it the smile file. You got to keep your smile file.
Oh, I love that.
And that was the piece in. But
love
again, it's
that.
the remembering the whole piece. We don't. You don't get involved in the jobs that we do because you want money or power or things like that. You get involved in the jobs that we do because you care about kids, and you want to use those opportunities to make a difference in kids' lives. We're not as close to the students as we were in a classroom, but it doesn't mean that our focus isn't laser focused on their outcome. We just have a few layers to do that whole thing. That's true. And that's the beauty of it, because like we talked about our porch of an educator and administrator and all that stuff, it all comes back down to student outcomes. And it comes down to one simple thing: loving kids because they deserve it.
Yeah.
As we go. And that's pretty awesome.
Okay,
What
you
a-
conduct
what
the
a
interview.
fun
I know.
thing. I know.
But
For hours.
to think this letter, this little student went from Mr. Bessette's classroom to Yale Medical School.
Yeah.
That's pretty
I hope
amazing,
she was
isn't it?
very successful.
I'm sure
Yes,
she was.
yes,
'Cause
I'm
she wouldn't have
sure
written the
she
letter
was.
if she wouldn't have
Yeah.
been. As we
I
go
know.
from there. But
It's true,
again,
makes my
that's
heart
the lighting
happy.
of the spark.
Yep, it is.
And that's the beauty of those things. And we get to see those every day in our classrooms here in Care Sargent.
It's wonderful. Well, Mr. Bessette, thank you as always for joining us.
Happy spring.
Yeah,
Happy
happy
spring. It's wonderful. I know.
And so since it's spring forward, we get to spring forward and not do the question.
No, we get to spring forward, and you get to be here for the question.
Or as
And
always.
it's a really good one, though. We're going to be talking about college and college entry, and so it's a hopeful
As an
one.
old high school principal,
Right.
hopefully I have some answers on that one.
Sounds good. Thank you, Michael, for
welcome.
joining
For being
us. We appreciate it. We'll be back, and what's the name of our show?
The Cougar Chronicle.
Got it. Welcome back to Cougar Chronicle, and I don't know why I take such glee in introducing the segment. Every time I get so excited.
About every time.
Dun-dun-dun-dun-dun.
Just the whole thing. And they've been great questions.
They have been.
And they haven't been, there has been some difficult ones, but nothing
Right.
difficult in the sense of, it's not difficult that we can't answer, but they're always these, like, ugh,
Exactly.
like what, or that wonder of like,
Right, and everyone's looking at you for the answer.
I have
and
to
that's
be
hard.
cautious because karma is a true thing, and you get what you ask for because people on all the guests are like, well, are there a list of questions? No questions.
Yeah,
Just show up.
it's true.
You'll be fine. And so if I'm going to
Yes,
extend it to them,
then
I've
I
got
get
to
to
live
put
it.
you in the
So,
hot seat.
okay,
That's true.
all right, I'm
okay,
ready.
you're ready. It's spaghetti. Here we go. Okay, so this one's actually one that was really near and close to my heart.
Okay.
This parent from Bradford has a sophomore who's college bound and wants to know what should they be thinking about.
Oh my gosh, that's exciting.
Isn't it so
times.
exciting?
Oh my gosh.
I know.
So, as a former high school principal, I'll tell you that sophomore year is such a fun time. The conversations about what do I want to be when I grow up, and how do we develop and go from there. Always my advice in a situation like that is start with your guidance counselor, with your school counseling office, because there's a lot of great conversations to go, and how do we want to have those experiences. And the reason I say that is, when we talk about it, it's what do I want to be when I grow up? What is that initial plan? And making sure that your student is understanding the importance of, do we have to take an SAT or an ACT? What are we thinking about for colleges? What is the dream school? Do we have the grades? Are we on track for the right courses? Some schools, you can look at like Ivy League schools or things like that. Even some schools in Missouri required so many credits of languages to be able to apply. So it's really getting down to what it is that you need to be able to qualify for the application, and then having those great conversations with your school's counselor on what do we need to do to make sure that we're setting ourselves up. And then along those lines, I think another great thing is be thinking about how do you want to set yourself apart? Are you doing things like, I feel like I'm in that mode a little bit for a second.
Yes.
volunteer hours. We have community service work that we do. Is there a certain thing that you want to focus on? If you're wanting to be a doctor, are we getting internships, or we're looking at extended learning opportunities that may lead into those experiences to do those things, to really, and what a great opportunity also with our extended learning opportunities to be able to talk about, is this something I really want to do? Because there's nothing probably worse than spending 6 years, 4 years of college, 2 years coming into medical school to find out you don't like the sight of blood.
That's
So
true.
maybe a chance to look at some of those
Yes,
things early.
absolutely.
But always everything starts with that school counselor, and then having a conversation with your teachers, some of those trusted advisors that you have there. But I wish you well along those journeys, and if there's anything we can do to help, please don't hesitate to reach out to the SAU, because we're always excited to see our kids make that move to the next step as they take control of their lives and open up into this great world. So I think it's a great question.
It
What a
is.
great
Isn't
question.
I love that question. Yeah, and it's such an exciting time
Yes.
for me. And graduation,
That
you'll be
piece.
spearheading your first one this
I
year.
know. Very
So
excited for
about
that. We'll get going from there.
That'll
Gotta
be-
work- I'm working on my speech.
Yeah.
Slowly.
Well, thank you for joining us. We'll see you in May coming up, right?
As always, remember in that first Thursday and Friday of the month, we have
That's
those
right.
things coming on. We got to make sure we always throw those in there when we can. But it is just unbelievable how quick this year's gone. And just thank you so much for hosting this.
Oh, it's such a joy co-hosting.
Have a blast.
You do the hard work. You get to come in and enjoy company. So thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time on
Cougar Chronicle.
Welcome to the Kearsarge Regional School District's District Music Festival Band Concert. I did get to hear a little today, so I am very excited for tonight, and I hope you all are. I have to take a second and brag about the students for 2 reasons. And as parents, you should be very, very proud of them for these 2 reasons. One, today, we served all of them, 125 or so, pizza and water. And we did this in the gym, in the bleachers. And as you might think, oh my gosh, there must have been a disaster and a mess. No, afterwards, we found only 1 plate with some pizza on it and 1 plate with salad, and that was it. They cleaned up so well. So congratulations, students. Thank you for helping out with that, okay? The other reason I want to brag about them is we just completed course signups for next year for the high school. And you should know that over 1/3 of the students coming to this school next year will be involved in band and or chorus, which is awesome for a school our size to have that many students. And this is, in part because of you encouraging your students, and also for the exciting teachers that are helping these students grow and learn to be musicians and have fun with music. And if you didn't know, music is a great way to increase your math skills. So if you're worried about math skills, keep them in band and chorus, because it actually helps with that. But many thanks to Mr. Sean Anderson.
This next piece is Covered Bridges, something that I've been very fortunate with the support of Mr. Langell, is to commission pieces. And that means that I get to contact composers and they write pieces for us. This is, I think, the 4th year now of us doing that, maybe the 5th year actually. And it's pretty special. This piece, I went in with a bunch of other directors around the state, and I contacted this composer, and he wrote Covered Bridges, and it's pretty cool. He has some connections to New Hampshire, and he frequently actually comes up to New Hampshire in the summertime, and he imagines that you're driving, along the road, and for the fast part of the song, and then when we get to the slow part, you hit a covered bridge and you go through the covered bridge, and you're just looking at the structure and how it's made, and how it's all hand put together, and all that, the coolness that we have that with covered bridges in this area, and he's kind of honoring that. So I thought that was really appropriate for us in this area, and really special for us for that. So whenever this gets published and sent out and people buy it, they'll see Kearsarge Regional High School at the top of the piece. that we were part of that. So this is Covered Bridges. I hope you enjoyed the car ride through the covered bridge. Also, I forgot to mention, this was the world premiere. We were the first people in the world to play that piece, which is really, really cool.
So Friends of Music is a volunteer organization, and they do a few things. One of the things that they do is they try to get community support for our music programs, band and chorus. Another thing that they do is they help out with fundraising. That's a big activity of Friends of Music. And they also just help out Mr. Anderson and Mr. Lavoie in various ways, try to support them in the ways that they need. If you would like to be a part of Friends of Music, you can contact Mr. Anderson, Mr. Lavoie, let them know, and they will get you on the email list. And that means that you will get the invitations to the meetings that they have once a month. So my wife just made the comment, with so many students coming into the freshman year, it sounds like we're going to have a lot of band students and chorus students could really use some more volunteers. And so you can get on that email list. You will get the emails to attend the meetings again once a month. Those are the first Wednesday of every month. The meeting in September and June is in person, but all of the other meetings are on Zoom. And so again, contact Mr. Anderson, Mr. Lavoie if you'd like to help out. Thank you for listening.